Hi there, it's Earth 1111. We're going to talk about your hidden reality exposed. The 12 dimensions, the pineal gland, quantum field, kundalini, and so much more on Earth 1111. Hey, it's Roxanne, Earth 1111 here. Please, as always, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, comment, like, and share the video with everybody you know, because it really helps my videos get seen to more people on YouTube. Thank you so much. Now let's get into your hidden reality exposed. So we all go through life just going through the motions, thinking that we are living a successful life. We have the American dream, right? That's the goal to attain in this life, to be successful. But we're miserable. Now, why is that? It's because we are completely separated from the truth of who we are. Literally, we are living an existence separated from ourselves. That's because we are programmed, not just on that level, but every level of our existence to keep this entire reality going. So we'll get to that in a moment. But know that you yourself are oneness, God, source, creator. And God wants to know itself. It wants to know what it likes, who it is, what it would do in certain situations. So it splits apart into infinite parts. All you. You are the entire universe. But it splits into these parts so it can experience itself. Now, you exist just like those prisms in the window, right? Those crystals that take in the sunlight and diffract. Is it the word diffract or refract? Anyway, they diffract that light into the rainbow colors, right? All the different colors. So that is similar to what you exist as. You are an infinite multidimensional being. Don't know what that means. What it means is you exist on infinite dimensions. Well, really, there aren't infinite dimensions, but there are infinite timelines where you can exist in this dimensional structure. Now, you are all of these dimensions. Now, the fractals we can think of as the dimensions. These are all morphogenetic fields, torus fields of energy. And we have a field inside a bigger field, inside a bigger field. All of these have different geometries and grid patterns. These are all the dimensions. Now, we can think of your chakras as being the doorway or the portal into these fields. So these fields of energy are literally force fields. And there's only one way to access them. And you get to the 0 point of that field. That is your chakra. Dimensions are morphogenetic fields, torus fields of energy inside one another, bigger and bigger and bigger, all the way to the macrocosmic levels, and then microcosmically, smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Timelines, like I mentioned in the last video, is where you are coming from in relation to this dimensional structure. So once we leave the Godhead, which really is just God, source, creator, the beingness of the everything, once we leave that 0 point, the spot of just no force, just that beingness, that perfection, we create a time construct, a time spiral. So that's the dimensions. Now, a typical human in the third dimension isn't just third dimensional. We exist in 3 different dimensions. That's really what it means. We exist in the first dimension, second, and third. And really, those dimensions are relating to our chakras. First, second, and third chakras. The root, the sacral, and the solar plexus. Now, we can expand our consciousness, go up in vibration, like the term is, right? We always hear, go up, get your vibration up. That's literally what we have to do to move up these dimensions. And so when we move up, we're not actually going up, we're going in. But that'll be really explained in thorough video some other time. But we move in and we implode closer to our truth. So we explode simultaneously to a bigger expansion, a bigger field of energy. So we start being able to now align ourselves on infinite dimensions. So we align everything into a vertical column, which creates us to it's almost like having all the puzzle pieces fit, right? You have everything aligned. Now, of course, the Kundalini energy, which really is your soul, your fire. So it's your energy that really, like I said, exists typically in the first, second, third chakras in your lower self. So this is now you keeping this small life in the box, going through, according to what society tells you is successful. And you live by programs in these dimensions. Now, really, every dimension has to have some level of programming in it, because otherwise it's just random energy. So the programming is really the geometries and the grids that are making up this field. That's all the programming. And you need some programming because otherwise nothing would happen. Like, for example, on the first dimension, that's your physical body. So your body is your elemental. That is actually part of the larger earth grid. So you literally are of the earth. Now, in that programming, in that grid, has to be codes for your physical body to function by itself without you having conscious awareness of it. So, right, you automatically have your heart beating. You automatically take a breath. You go to the bathroom, things like that. So some programming is needed. Now, the problem we have is we have the entire world, well, really, until we go through the process of waking up and ascension and moving beyond this state, we all exist in these programs. So we just go through the motions, and the lower vibrational energies, again, in this lower world of the first, second, third dimensions, are all things that really hold us back from our truth, because they keep us in this rat race life. And they keep us looping, so this, for example, in the first dimension, we can have a lot of programming like the deepest, darkest fears you will ever have. It will be survival mechanisms, right? Life is hard. I never have any money, right? These are all programs. Literally, we can remove those programs. And again, that'll be for other videos. Now, in the second dimension, the sacral chakra, which is the doorway into the second dimension that holds a lot of other programming to do with relationships and procreation. So issues with that, issues with emotions. So it's your lower emotional body. And the third dimension, the solar plexus, is your lower mind. So it holds a lot of that ego programming, the power control type of structures, or victimhood, right? So a lot of those programs to do with victim, perpetrator, savior matrix energies, right? So you're the victim, the little mini, and there's the big bad thing, and now you need someone else to save you from it, right? So we can see that blatantly in the world right now. But of course that happens in all of our lives. So in many scenarios, right, where we play the victim and blame someone else, when really we could be taking back our ownership instead of being the victim, which gives you an excuse to not move on or to make those changes that need to be made or whatever, right? And a lot of addictions can be held as well in the sacral chakra, which I forgot to mention, because addictions can be really tied to, some of the most emotional based blockages and traumas you've had, abandonment and just things like that, right? So a lot of addictions can be held in the second dimension. But yeah, all of these together make this personality matrix. It makes you who you are, right? Now, how do we move beyond this personality matrix that keeps us believing, literally experiencing a reality where we are physical and separate from everybody else, just going through this life? So when we expand into other dimensions, remember, we aren't moving and leaving this one. We actually are experiencing multiple dimensions all at once. So you will never be the same again. And this is what happens when we wake up. That's where we now expand to the fourth dimension and beyond. But the first initial stage is the fourth dimension, which really isn't a stable dimension. It's one of healing. So the fourth dimension is the heart chakra. So we have to have that heart awakening, that heart activation. So typically it's going to be something terrible that wakes us up, right? worldwide issue, like what's going on right now, that can really wake everybody up. And of course, things like a loss, an accident, we could lose somebody or have that shock, right? Where someone's all of a sudden divorcing us, or we lose a job, or we had a trauma. So any type of trauma that kind of puts you in that shock, that instant shocking, that jarring of the system can create trauma inside the system, really stuck energy, stuck emotions, energy in motion. So our heart, of course, our most sensitive area, has many blockages and walls, right? This is why people call it walling off your heart, right? So when we have that wake up, that's where energy starts moving into the fourth dimension. So we start having our Kundalini energy move it into our heart chakra. And again, it's not stable because we can't just stay in our heart and be all in love all the time. When we wake up, we typically wake up and, all of a sudden see another layer. And then something triggers us and we're back in the lower dimensions again, being triggered, getting pissed off, getting angry, crying. And then we're back up again in our heart and we feel empowered and we feel like we want to wake everybody up and save the world. And then something triggers us and we're back down, right? So the fourth dimension is definitely not stable. It's the dimension of really healing these traumas, healing the separation that keeps you from you. So healing the separation between everything, between your spiritual self and your physical self, between your masculine and your feminine, between everything. You need to unify everything. And then you unify your energy field. You stack all your chakras in a column, all unified. You become one huge entire grid, the entire multiverse. So this is what ascension really is. So I'm going to go over this chart a lot more in the future when I talk about what is ascension and the ascension process. So I'm going to go over it in more detail later, but let's keep going. Between the third and fourth dimension, there's really a huge repulsion zone in the physics of the actual energy, right? We go from being in separation to unification. So it's radiation energy versus magnetic energy. So it's literally opposites. So on the quantum level, there's that resistance and repulsion zone. And of course, that's represented in our own life with this desire not to wake up. So we can see that everywhere in the world. When someone chooses to wake up, that begins a whole process of having to look at everything, having to deal with all your stuff that you've been neglecting and ignoring and hated about yourself your whole life. All these traumas, everything that's ever happened to you, not just in this life, in every life, and in your ancestors, right? So it's in your DNA. Everything that's ever happened to you has to come up to be healed. So we can look around the world and we can see why people don't want to wake up. They're doing everything to put the blinders back on. It doesn't matter how many things are stacking up, how much truth is coming out. They won't wake up, right? Well, that's also because, like I said, they're stuck in these programs. So when you are stuck in the game, we're, just trying to survive or being in fear, right? They know this. They keep this propaganda going nonstop to keep you in your root chakra, in fear, scared to leave the house. And of course, your own addictions will self-govern you, right? And, dysfunctions in relationships. And then, of course, the programs based on victimhood and perpetrator-savior complex systems. So all of that type of stuff together will keep you in these low vibrational existences, 3D Earth. So when you wake up, you now have to start doing the work. People don't want to do that. So that's really why people aren't waking up out there. Now, when we have been in 4D for a while, we're going up and down, right? It's in that extreme. So extreme duality, extreme polarization. So things are either amazing or they're horrible. It's light or it's dark, right? Things are just those polar opposites. And that's because, like I said, the fourth dimension is not stable. We need to heal a lot of stuff. So things need to become chaotic in order for them to become destabilized, to then for you to look at them, for them to be obvious right in your face. So after we've done some healing, we will start moving beyond the fourth dimension into the fifth and beyond. So the fifth dimension is really the beginning of that balance point where we balance the throat area, which is between the masculine, the mind, and the feminine, which is the heart area. So the fifth dimension really is that 0 point unification of being complete balance. And I'll talk about that a lot more in another video because I can go on a lot about the fifth dimension there. So now when we start moving as well beyond that into the sixth dimension, now the sixth dimension is the biggie. That's where we now have the portal to our higher selves, these cosmic selves, galactics, aliens, divine beings, angels, right? It's the portal, the doorway to us being able to experience and receive information from these higher realms. And again, every realm is you. So all these higher realms are your own dimensional selves as well, right? When we're channeling or when we are communicating with our angels or things like that, we feel at the beginning that they are some separate being up here or out there, right? They're not in us. They're a separate whole personality. That's because the process of ascension is merging back, first activating, and then merging back with all of these aspects of ourselves that have these different personalities, that have these different energy templates. So you're literally becoming everything. So you'll no longer just be little old you with your name and, what you do for a living and where you live. That's going to be one aspect, your third dimensional aspect. You're going to be now a cosmic being, a galactic being, an angelic being, and beyond. So that's how weird it gets. Because when I talk about these dimensions, it's not just, in some theoretical, reality. No, you will be experiencing literally your own reality differently. When you activate and then, of course, embody these different fields of energy. You will literally start feeling connected with everyone. You will start feeling connected with the birds and the wind and the chair over there, right? Everything. You start feeling that energy. Again, not the beginning. This is a process of aligning yourself back to God, Source, Creator. That spark within you. And eventually you become a force field, not just a spark. So the sixth dimension is that special area that the powers that be know all about that. That's exactly where those areas of the brain lay, right in the center of the 0 point. Remember, it's your portal to these higher aspects. Your pineal gland and other areas sit in that area of the brain. So of course, the system has done everything they can for decades to shut down the pineal gland area. So we don't have access, we're not able to communicate and get information and messages from these higher aspects of ourselves. Literally everything in society is to create disharmony in your system, is to create you to live in that small world, right, of the lower self, going through life like a robot, programmed. Because when you start accessing these higher levels of self, you have that ability to see beyond the game, to see beyond the system for what it is. So they will do anything to prevent that. Because when you start decalcifying your pineal gland, layer by layer, by detoxifying the body, by detoxifying the mind, by doing so many different things, right? Because our pineal gland area has been layered up with just so much gunk, toxicity, mucus, right? So many mucus-causing foods. The mucus sits right there and literally blocks your ability to receive these high informational downloads from your guides, from your higher self, from aliens, from gods, goddesses. All of them communicate through the sixth dimension, the pineal gland. Because the pineal gland is actually a receiver, and it actually can read the entire quantum field. It can see on all dimensions. Now, when it's calcified and blocked, it's like it has a lot of dead areas, right? There's just blackout areas where it's not able to read the whole quantum field on every dimension. all the frequencies out there, right? Because you gotta remember, we only exist in a tiny fraction of all the energies in this soup of the quantum field out there. And out there, I mean everywhere, right? The quantum field is you. Everything is you. But when we only exist in a fraction of these grids, the visible light spectrum. So what we can physically see with our eyes is only a tiny fraction of all the different frequencies out there. And that's even, science talks about that. So, and again, what is light? What is color? Something isn't just orange or red. You are actually seeing light emanating a certain frequency of light that your senses perceive that as red. But it's not actually red at all. It's not really even there. I'm not here and neither are you. We are just perceiving through our senses and our pineal gland energies, codes, information in order to have an experience. So your pineal gland is key to you expanding beyond this physical body and this realm. Now the pineal gland can receive energies well beyond the earth realm. Massive quantum, cosmic, galactic energies way out there, right? High frequency light. What's light? Information, codes, intelligence. So when you receive massive high vibrational light codes, your body can actually be recoded to now give you a higher experience, literally a higher reality, beyond this 3D existence we thought was life. So we can exist in our center column, which is your connection to source. You are a God being. Now, the senses are really good at keeping this same old reality perpetuated. So literally the senses will take on information constantly to give you this stable experience. But when you receive massive new information through your pineal gland, your hypothalamus and other areas of the brain process that information. Your pituitary gland can actually override all the senses. It's the master gland, and it can override the senses with this new information that your pineal gland has received. And it can give you a quantum experience, a divine experience. It can literally override this 3D reality. So you want your pineal gland open as much as you can, receiving the highest frequencies you can, right? So even though we're in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions, we are in the soul matrix. We are in our own individual soul matrix. So when we want to now get beyond that, we have to open up the crown, and that opens up our connection where we now connect with everything. Oneness. So when the crown opens up and beyond that, we're able to experience so much more than us just being separate. Because even the soul matrix, you are still feeling like you are separate from the light, separate from the angels, the aliens, right? Separate from everyone else. You still feel kind of that separation, even though you might feel, a lot more inspired, a lot more of those positive energies, right? Because they're literally higher vibrational. So your physical body is a supercomputer and computes frequencies and codes in the quantum field. And the quantum field consists of all of these fields of energy, layer by layer. So every single one of these dimensions has a little bit of a veil, right? So this is that repulsion zone. And there's certain areas as well that have a larger repulsion zone that really keep you separate from moving beyond that. So there's also going to be one of those repulsion zones between the 6 and 7 dimensions. This is between being a separate soul and merging with the oversoul, the soul of the higher macrocosm of everyone. Because you have to literally remove a lot of beliefs that you are separate, or a lot of traumas, a lot of left brain thinking separate from everyone else. You're this and you're that, and this is just the way I am. This is the way that I perceive life. Limiting beliefs, right? All of this is all held within these lower dimensions that keep you in that game. And of course, society will do anything to keep you in that game. right? They have full-fledged agendas, right? We can see the biggest one happening right now on the world stage. And of course, everything really has been contributing to this for decades, centuries. The foods we eat, GMO foods, pesticides, fluoride in the water. These debt systems, where someone goes into debt and now has to work the rest of their life, a job they hate, to pay for that debt, right? It goes on and on and on every single level. And of course, Wi-Fi signals, satellite signals, cell phone towers, all of that scrambles the energy fields and keeps it scattered, which is also of a low vibration. And of course, the constant fear propaganda, non-stop, 24/7. And this goes well before last year. This has been ongoing forever. All of that keeps you in this loop, this small life. And of course, your own addictions will keep you in that loop. So everything keeps you playing the game of the 3D matrix. So now you start perceiving reality from not just the first, second, third dimension, but from the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, eighth, and beyond. Now you can become literally multidimensional. You will feel all dimensions of yourself, almost like you are a mix of a bunch of personalities, a bunch of different bodies, all in this same space. So that's how weird it gets. When we move beyond the soul matrix into the oversoul matrix, we start merging with everyone's souls. That's how big this gets. So we're not just becoming our own individual oversoul. What is the oversoul? It's the combination of many souls put together. That's how ridiculous this gets. Now we're able to perceive everyone simultaneously, all at once, all the time, as well as our own persona, as well as our own soul. That's how weird it gets when we start ascending. And it goes beyond that. Now we can become avatar consciousness. And then we can literally perceive reality from that 0 point of God, source, creator. So all of this is the process of ascension. And then we also need to embody. So we don't just want to expand out. Well, again, when we expand out, it's because we're integrating closer to the center. But now we need to bring that light into the physical body and recode the DNA. So our physical experience is now of the divine. We live in a higher reality. And that's how you start now existing in the fifth dimension. 5D New Earth, or 7D New Earth, which is 0 point, the neutral space. And again, I'll talk about more of this in the next video. But just know that all of this is a process. It's automatically and organically already happening. The only way for us not to be ascending back into all aspects of self, merging all of that back into us, is because the process is being stunted and stopped. And that's what's happening in the world. You can see exactly the agenda, what's going on to stop this process, because you don't think they know what's going on? They know exactly what's going on, which is why this entire system out there, everything, corporations, governments, everything are trying every level to keep you from ascending, to keep you from accessing these higher aspects of yourself. Because then you're out of the game. Then you know more. Then you're beyond doing exactly what they want you to do, which is to go into debt, to be sick, to be in fear. So that's the key. I'm Roxanne. Please share the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll have lots more to talk about next time. The truth about aliens coming up next on Earth 1111.